We are standing in a critical moment of history. There are 27 million people trapped in slavery worldwide. I first came into contact with victims of sex slavery in the United States when I was working at Oakland Children's Hospital. The girls were coming into the emergency department with the same story. They would tell me of how a man began to lure them into a relationship, basically so that he could make them fall in love with them so that he could traffic them on the streets. And I went to my supervisor and I said, what do I do with these girls? Where do I put them? Where is the treatment facility that exists for them? And my supervisor says there's nothing that exists in the United States for them. I met a young woman who is the executive producer of a movie that exposes sex trafficking in the United States. And we began to swap stories of the different victims that we'd come into contact with. We both came to the same conclusion, which is that these kids who are being trafficked in the United States need restoration services and they need homes to be placed into. She said, Erica, will you be the person who will start these restoration homes? She said, you're the first person who I've met with the education and the experience that could actually launch something like this in the United States. And at the time I thought, I'm so busy, I have so much going on, there's no way that that could ever happen. So she looked at me and she said, will you do me one favor, Erica? Will you go away and will you pray? So I went away and I prayed, and it was crazy, but for the next 4 months, I felt like God pursued me himself to ask me if I would say yes to this. I decided to say yes, and that was the start of Unlikely Heroes. So we moved forward with opening restoration homes for children who were trapped in sex slavery, and the doors actually opened first in the Philippines. So in November of 2011, we sent a team to the Philippines who rescued 10 girls out of brothels and opened our first restoration home. Those girls have now been living in safety, receiving education and life skills and church services and teachings on prayer since November of 2011. They took me back so that I could see the actual rooms where the girls had been living. And it was at the back hallway, backed onto the bar, and I had to walk down this long hallway, and there were 11 little rooms down there, and each little room had one girl living in it. And I walked around the corner and I looked at these 11 little girls who are living in these tiny little rooms being raped all night long, and I was just overcome with emotion. I just couldn't believe that this was their reality, that this is what they'd known. They would tell us of how they'd been beaten and abused and how they'd say, we're too young to do this, we're too young to be prostituted girls. And the bar owners would make them go out and work all night long. I remember one of the girls, and she was crying, and she said, thank you. We didn't know anyone was coming for us. Thank you. I fell in love with them right away. Some of the girls, they call me Mommy Erica, and it always makes me laugh so hard. One of the girls actually said to me on this last trip, she said, when I grow up, I want to be a missionary like Mommy Erica. And if you know me at all, you know how ridiculous that is. But the reality is these girls are worth it, and there's nothing else I'd want to do with my life. We're opening up an outreach center this fall in Oakland, California that will actually be reaching out to the very girls who are trapped in sex slavery who I first came into contact with when I was working at Oakland Children's Hospital. We're going to have a storefront that will provide the girls with clothes and food and also just relationship so that we'll have people who are there so these girls will know when they get into trouble that they'll know who to call. Thank you so much, Bethel Church, for all of your help and support with Unlikely Heroes. We couldn't do it without you. You make it possible for us to reach out and to see lives change throughout the world.